You know that feeling when you learn a phrase from a language textbook, you finally get the chance to use it in real life, and you just get a blank stare? Yeah, you're not alone. There's this huge gap between the super polished English we learn in class and the messy, real way people actually talk. Today, we're going to dive into the revolution that's trying to close that gap for good.
So let me ask you, is your English from a textbook? I mean, think about it. Is your go-to response to "How are you" still "I am fine, thank you"? Do you have all these perfect phrases memorized that you've literally never heard a real person say? If you're nodding right now, it's because for decades, language textbooks were just based on what some author thought was right, not on what people actually said.
I mean, here's a classic example. Every textbook loves to teach "it's raining cats and dogs." It's a fun phrase, it's memorable, but here's the thing. Pretty much nobody in America actually says it. So what do they say? It's pouring. And this isn't just some quirky little difference, it points to a huge disconnect between the classroom and the real world.
So, how do we fix this? How do we get from these weird, outdated textbook phrases to real, everyday language? Well, the answer comes from a quiet but totally powerful revolution in how we study language, and it's all powered by one amazing tool. And that tool is the linguistic corpus. Now, that might sound a little academic, but the idea is actually super simple. It's just a gigantic, organized collection of real language. From books, from conversations, from the internet, all stored on a computer. The key word here is real. No more made-up sentences.
So what makes this such a game changer? Well, it boils down to three things. First, they are massive. We're talking millions, sometimes billions of words. That scale lets us see what's actually common and what's super rare. Second, it's authentic. The language is pulled from real life, articles, TV shows, you name it. And third, it's electronic, which means we can use computers to find all these subtle patterns that a human being would just never, ever catch.
And here's where it gets really cool. This incredible tool didn't just change how researchers study language, it completely flipped the classroom upside down. It created a brand new way of learning, where you, the student, are no longer just a passive listener. You become a language detective.
This whole new approach is called data-driven learning, or DDL. And the big idea is this. Instead of a teacher just telling you, here's the grammar rule, memorize it, DDL gives you the raw evidence, a bunch of real sentences from a corpus, and lets you figure out the rule for yourself.
So think of it like this. You're trying to learn the verb depend. Your teacher, instead of just saying "it's followed by on," gives you a list of 10 real sentences. So, step 1, you observe the clues. You look at all the sentences. Step 2, you start to see a pattern. Hey, depend on shows up in every single one. And finally, step 3, you solve the case yourself. You figured it out. And that aha moment makes the rule stick in your brain way better than just memorizing it ever could.
As one of the pioneers of this, Tim Johns, said way back in 1991, the language learner becomes a researcher. It's a huge shift. You're not just being fed information anymore. You're the one out there digging for it.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But what about for someone specifically trying to learn American English, a language that's everywhere? Well, for that, you need the right tool for the job.
And when it comes to American English, the gold standard, the absolute best tool out there, is the Corpus of Contemporary American English. You'll hear people call it COCA for short. It is hands down the most powerful way to understand how Americans really speak and write right now.
Just how powerful are we talking? COCA has over 1 billion words. That's billion with a B. This isn't just from books either. It's from TV shows, popular magazines, academic papers, even blogs. It's this living, breathing snapshot of the entire range of American English.
And using this data helps you master a really important skill called register, which is just a fancy way of saying you know which word to use in which situation. For instance, a dictionary might tell you that get and obtain mean the same thing, but COCA will show you that people almost always say get in conversations, while obtain is something you'd see in a formal paper. It's not about right versus wrong, it's about sounding natural.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing. A billion-word database, learning like a detective. It sounds like we've totally solved the problem of language learning, right? Well, not so fast. As it turns out, there's often a big difference between a tool's potential and what actually happens in a real classroom.
First, let's just be clear about the incredible promise here. A corpus can instantly show you the most frequently used words in a language. Why is that a big deal? Well, studies show that if you learn just the top 2,000 most common words, you can understand around 80% of a regular text. That is an unbelievable shortcut to getting fluent.
The potential is huge, but
in practice, there are some pretty big hurdles. Researchers keep pointing to the same 3 problems. First, a lot of teachers just haven't been trained on how to use these tools. Second, if you're a beginner, just being thrown a bunch of raw data can be really overwhelming and confusing. And finally, let's be real, none of this works if you don't have good, reliable internet access. And that brings us to a second, even deeper gap. We started this whole journey trying to close the gap between textbook English and real English. But in the process, we found another one, the gap between what these amazing tools can do and what our classrooms are actually ready to handle.
So that leaves us with one final, really important question. We have the technology. We have billions of words of real, authentic language right at our fingertips, ready to completely change how we learn. The data is here. The only question is, are our classrooms ready for it?